Okay, now I finished the tie stitch all the way around in pink. You can see the tie stitch here that we were working on. And then you could see the little orange in between. It looks really pretty. So to me it was a bit harder to coil to the left because I don't normally do that. So now we are going to work on the Indian wrap stitch. So here's my sample coiling to the right. Here's the Indian wrap. So I just completed one row of the Indian wrap on here. You can also use the Indian wrap if you build on and do 3 rows, 2 or 3 rows, to create the checkerboard effect. Here's what the checkerboard effect looks like. Now mine just worked out correctly, but you need to have an odd number of stitches and the areas that you're filling in also for it to work out correctly. I didn't have a problem getting it to the checkerboard effect, but maybe I had an odd number of stitches already. So at any rate, that's another, once you learn the Indian wrap, you could try doing, 3 rows and creating the checkerboard effect, which looks really cool. And one thing I want to mention is the spaces between your stitches will give you an indication of what it's going to look like. If your stitches are further apart and you just go one wrap, one stitch, as we're doing now, it'll maintain it in a normal pattern. You can wrap two open areas between the stitches. You could create any number of patterns with this stitch. So let's just get to it. So the way that I create the Indian wrap is usually my first stitch is just a basic stitch, and we have the tie stitch below, so I'm not going to go through the needles. I'm going to go just through the top of the stitch below. So if you have a regular stitch or diamond, whatever you have below, you can just go through the top of the stitch. And obviously, if you prefer to go through the needles, which some people do, you can do that way. So here's your basic regular stitch. I'm still dealing with these bouncy pine needles. Then your next stitch is going to be a wrap stitch. So, see if I can do this with my left hand. You're just covering the pine needles, wrapping them out. Just wrap, wrap, wrap. So I like to pull it pretty snug and just start wrapping. My thread is pretty long because I know that when you're wrapping, it's going to take a lot of thread. So I did 2 arms length. I measured out 2 arms length. So I'm a little bit slower wrapping with my left hand than I would with my right, but I hold it on there so that it doesn't loosen up at all. So I wrap a bit. Now, my wraps between the regular stitches are going to be a little bit bigger right here because it's separated quite a bit. There's a big space between. So then I snug it up. I like to just snug it up so none of the needles show beneath. So of course you continue adding needles as you need them. I kind of get my little rhythm going. Once I tie down a row or stitch down a row, I will add more needles. So as I get closer, first of all, I'm going to snug up. And then I'm going to measure if that's right close to it. And it looks pretty good to me. It's very close to the next stitch. It's all snugged up. Smooth that down in there. I'm just going to come back up and over because I like them to be very full. This is the one problem with long thread. It takes you a while to get to it. Oh, and you get little knots, but not a big deal. We could take that out. It's not a big knot. There we go. So I tend to untwist after a bit. So I want to snug this up again. Make sure that's straight. I'm coming up and over. So see, this might tend to move over here. And then I'm just going to go under that stitch again. I try to find a channel in the pine needles. Lots of thread because I got 2 arms length, but if you're wrapping, it takes a little bit more thread. So unless you like changing your thread a lot, it's a good idea to get more. Okay, so here's the start. You see where these are further apart? The stitches in between are going to be bigger. And on this one, the stitches were 1/4 of an inch apart. And so you have the wrap and the single stitch close together. Okay, we'll do one more. Ordinarily, I'd be adding needles, but I don't want to stop on camera. So go under that stitch. All these different colors look pretty cool together. Funnel it through slowly so you don't catch any knots, because then you have to take everything apart. To take your needle off, rethread it. See, it does get twisty. There you go. There's our long stitch, or basic stitch. I am going to untangle this, because it will get tangled again when we wrap. Pull everything snug. Smooth it together. Hold it here. And then just wrap that entire coil. I like to tighten it up. I'm going to sneak some more needles in after this stitch. So just wrap, wrap, wrap. So you can wrap an entire coil this way, and we'll be doing that to finish off this little sampler. We're not going up the sides or anything like that, making an actual basket. We're just doing like a coaster sampler. This is enough for me with trying to coil to the left, though. I'm not caring for it much because it's just slower. Now, if I turned over and I was using my right hand, I would be a lot faster. I guess just because I'm accustomed to it, which I could do and still, it'd still look the same, but I've got to get used to using my left hand more. So you can visibly see that this coil is a little bit thinner than this one, but I'm sure I'll manage to stick some more pine needles up in there. So just wrap till you get to the next space. Make sure to snug everything up. When I first learned how to do this, I did it a lot looser and I wasn't paying too much attention. I didn't have anybody watching me. And so some of my early baskets, I didn't make sure to fill in. And so I kind of learned this because my pine needles were showing through. But that's how we learn. Okay, we're getting really close. I'll snug it up. really close. I will do one more stitch, hold it down, come up and over, find my needle. So see how that's really right up to the edge of that stitch there. It's nice and close to that stitch edge. Just going to find that channel, go front to back, secure it down. Snug it all up. It's nice and full. Then you go back over to your long stitch, just the basic stitch. But some people call it a long stitch. Because you're going all the way over the pine needles. Okay, snug it down. That's what it's looking like. Now this is visibly shorter than this one because look at the stretch between there. And when I get over here, they're going to be smaller. So it's going to be off. It's just the way I started it. The stitches I was doing, it's just a little off. But it's just a practice piece, so it doesn't matter. Colors look great. Okay, I'm going to work my way around. And I think I'll show it to you again as we get to some shorter areas of stitches. So I had 2 arms length of thread, and it got me just about halfway around the basket. So when you're wrapping, as I said, it takes a lot more thread. So I wanted to show you how I change threads. So I'm trying to time it that I can change threads during a wrapping process. So I know I've got so much thread left, about 4 inches. I'm gonna wrap it as much as I can. Changing thread while wrapping is a really clean way to do it. So I'll probably get 3 wraps out of this, maybe. Go 3 times around. And you just need enough left on your needle that you can go through the needles. So I got 3 wraps on. I know this is going to be quite a few stitches. So I usually thread it straight through the needles, making sure you didn't lose your end there. Pull it across. So that's real clean back here. Then I will clip. Boy, these needles are long. I'll clip this side and try to leave about a 1/2 inch. Then pin it down inside the needles. Just tie that tail in there, make sure it's secure. Then I'll get another length of thread, 2 arms length, so I can get all the way around, and I'll thread it back up the way that we finished it. So I'm back with my needle threaded. I've got 2 arms length. So the way that I found to be able to hide the tails the best, here's where I finished off. You can see that's real clean, and I hid the tail down in here. So I'm going to come from the opposite side and try to get right between where I finished off and the area where I went around, wrapped around. Pull the thread all the way up. Watch it, you don't pull through. I've done that many, many, many times. So I'm watching closely. If you don't watch what you're doing, you could leave it a little bump, and we don't want that. It's not that noticeable, but just snug these up, right up next to each other. Squish, squish. Go back over here. We're going to come this way. Take this tail and stick it down. So if you do the tails on the opposite side, you cut it off, bury them, you're less likely to have a bump there. Sometimes you just can't help it, you get a bump. But see, really close, and that's the back side, so that's okay. Then I will come back over here, start wrapping again. Don't pull too hard because you'll pull the tail end of that new thread out and the old one. Well, I guess no, the new one. And then start wrapping again. And so you can see the little tails hidden in there, but once you squish it together, it's gonna look nice and clean. I'm going slow because I'm not used to using my left hand so much. Again, squish it all up in there. So see, there's barely a little spot there. And it's to the back, so no one's gonna notice. No one will be able to tell where you started and stopped your thread. These little guys will poke through, so I'm gonna take them off. I don't want a wild hair hanging out there. Okay. So now both those tails are securely down inside the wrap. Looks nice and clean. There it is. You have to look really close to see it. I'll keep wrapping and get to this next edge. That's a very good way to change your thread while you're wrapping. Nice and clean. So here's where we're at right now. Just about done with the Indian wrap. Some of the wraps are a little bit larger because the space between is larger. So it's a little off, but it still looks good. So I was just going to show you one more time. I'm taking a basic stitch underneath, trying to go in the channel and not poke myself. So here's a basic stitch, or just, I've seen people call it a long stitch in this Indian wrap. So one regular basic stitch, and then you start wrapping. So this is going to be a short wrap. Trying to pull everything tight because of my springy needles. And then you just take a wrap and you just keep wrapping, just covering the entire needles. Trying to go fast, but I'm not very fast going with my left hand, but I thought I would be faster for a short one. I'm getting more and more used to coiling to the left, doing these videos, which probably is a good thing for me. So that looks like it's about enough. I'm just going to snug them all up. I think I'll move them down a little just to fill in that gap totally. And then I will take one more stitch. So I've used up almost this whole 2 arms length. It's my second 2 arms length. And I've pretty much used it up. So now we are going to go through whatever stitch you have below. Oh my gosh, oh no, it came out. Yay! Miracles do happen. Better watch it though, it's tangling again. See, when you're wrapping, it kind of twists the thread a little bit. Pull that through. Yay! And there you have it. So we've got a shorter wrap over here, longer wraps around. If you keep going around, so this one, this must be an even number. If I went to this next stitch, I'd be taking a regular stitch. And then you are going to just keep going out with the wraps. You would have a regular stitch here. You are not going to get the checkerboard effect. I think I counted and I had 28 wraps and stitches. So it would create a really cool design because you would have all the long stitches together, all the wraps together. But if you wanted the checkerboard effect, you need to have an odd number of stitches to get this effect. So that's something you would have to pay attention to as you're figuring out which type of stitch you want. But there is the Indian wrap all the way around. I'll take a picture and post it in the video. And next we are going to work on the diamond stitch. So on this diamond stitch, I did about 1/4 of a length apart for the stitches. I think I'm going to try to do a half and make it a little bit larger diamonds. We'll see how that works out. Thanks for watching.